I put makeup on just for this date, so it better go well. And I'm not posting this, probably, if it doesn't. It did not go well. Truthfully, it lasted less than 2 minutes. I walked up, he gave me a hug and said, "Are you hungry? Let's go inside." We went inside. He said, "Actually, can you step outside for a minute?" I stepped back outside and he said, "I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm just not feeling it." So I walked to my car, came back home. Dating when you're fat sucks.
You have failed conclusively. It's over. And there is nothing that you can do here in this room that can turn that around.
Well, if dating when you're fat sucks, then might I suggest putting down the fork and not shoving 6,000 calories worth of food down your gullet on a daily basis? I get it, it's a lot easier to just wallow in self-pity and get a whole bunch of instant validation while complaining about how it sucks while you secretly expect dudes to lower their standards thanks to your lack of self-control. You know what else feels at home when they wallow? Pigs. But unlike pigs, who actually provide useful services to humanity, you can't even seem to do that. You can't even follow through on your promise to not post about your dating failures on the internet. Because, as it is with most modern women, it's just easier to get pity for your failures instead of working to become less of one.
No one makes friends with a failure. Okay? You understand?
I was supposed to go on a 4th date with a guy, but he spent the entire day texting me about like how awful it is cleaning out his apartment, and he's probably not gonna make it. Okay, so I text somebody else that I've just had like in the parking lot. I called it a parking lot, that's right. And I'm like, "Hey, plans have changed. Like, let's go get dinner. Let's get a drink. Like, let's whatever." And the second guy legit says to me, "I don't know, the potential pool is pretty deep at this bar, but if you want to join in and help out, you totally can." And I agree to go. Because no one wants to be in a relationship in their late 30s. You're independent, you have your own money, you're doing your own thing, but you're a little lonely and you need some compassion and companionship. Anyway, how was your weekend?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Allow me to be a certified gent and translate this for you, lady. You most certainly do not have a parking lot. Parking lots imply that people want to go to where you are and stick around. You're more of a drive-through window. You're quick, you're easy, and you fulfill a man's needs while eliminating a number of inconveniences, but in exchange for the convenience comes with some disadvantages, I'm afraid. First, what you're serving isn't worth the price you're charging. If he gets with you, you're gonna stink up his car for days. And consuming said product also yields the distinct possibility for needing to consult with a medical professional for an anonymous round of antibiotics. Furthermore, this guy was not asking you out on a date. He was clearly telling you that if you showed up, you'd have to deal with the fact that he's not going to talk to you unless he wants some sloppy seconds. And Sister Chadnam PI clearly has money and he ain't striking out tonight. And much like your drive-thru, you're a backup plan in case he gets hungry and isn't willing to put forth the effort to cook. And judging from that face of yours, that is the best scenario you could ever hope for, sister.
That's funny because it's so true.
Welcome to my TED Talk of why women over 50 do not want to date. I was out last night and it was like the first night in a while I actually made an effort, and by making an effort that meant that I wore heels and I put on a bra. And I meet this guy on the dance floor and we're dancing, we're having a good time, and he's clearly younger than me, but I don't care because we're dancing. Now, this guy has a strong sense of his own charm, and I am like, just going, okay, I am just like inches away of going all gone girl, where'd you go, Bernadette? And all of a sudden he says to me, "I'm not like all the other guys." And I'm thinking, well, if you have to tell me you're not like all the other guys, then you're just probably the leader of all the other guys.
Smelly fish.
And it's not a card.
So in other words, you went to a club, you got drunk, and a young guy started grinding up against you, and because most men fear their bodies turning to dust by touching you, it's clearly been a while since you've had some human physical contact, and your first inclination was to fantasize about the movies. Now that Bernadette movie should just be retitled Modern Divorced Woman the Movie, because that's literally what it's about. And Gone Girl, I think, involves a wife who's a sociopath. I'll be honest, I haven't seen either one of these movies, nor do I intend to, because they are clearly not the best movies around. Not exactly a winning combination there, but this guy ended up saying something admittedly cringe, and it immediately took you out of the fantasy because apparently Considering you're divorced and over the age of 50, you think you're entitled to a better smooth talker, and trust me, sister, you're really not.
Said, like, do you want to hook up? And I'm going, you know what? You're too young. Thank you, though. He goes, well, how old do you think I am? I go, like, you're in your 20s. And he goes, well, yeah, duh, I'm in my 20s, but, like, how old do you think I am? I said, okay, 26. He was 24. And I remember thinking, yeah, I remember when I thought that, you were adult in your 20s, too.
What?
I think it's a safe bet that if a modern woman feels the need to tell a story where she's taken the moral high ground, then the amount of embellishment is on overload. I mean, come on, woman. The idea of you taking a stance of moral superiority makes about as much sense as a woman becoming captain of a battleship because she's a lesbian. And we all know how that little detail turned out. Now, I have no idea what happened, but considering you're omitting details, the story is clearly not adding up. You went to a club, dressed in a way to attract men, and the second you attract a charming man, you shoot him down after he said something that wasn't charming? Yeah, you and your dried out tunnel of painful regrets aren't passing the smell test, lady.
I mean, it's clear, like, maturity has not exactly been his burden. So he says, like, don't you want to be with, like, a 24-year-old? And I said, I am with the 24-year-old. I call her my daughter. I'm just going to say it. Sharks aren't eating enough people.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
All right, I have a question here. What does anything you've just said have to do with dating? You didn't go out on a date, you grinded up against some drunk 24-year-old at a club. That's hardly dating. But you also get so offended at the notion of banging him that you claim that sharks aren't eating enough people? I mean, don't get me wrong, modern divorced women drive me up the wall with their sense of entitlement, their endless complaining, and the fact that they think they're better than everyone else because they tore their child away from their father. But then you turn around and claim that you're better than the men who want to sleep with you, and that's why you're not dating, even though you were never dating anyone in the first place. I guess I'm just not seeing the correlation between a dude drunkenly wanting to pork you, your lack of a dating life, and the fact that you think men need to face a massive culling via shark attack. Please, make it make sense. Oh wait, I forgot, it's impossible. You're divorced. There's no hope there.
You blew it. Capiche?
Is anyone else an absolute prostitute for a leftover? Because I feel like you either love it or you hate it. And if you love it, you almost don't even want to tell people that you love it because you get hated on. Because the people who hate them have such a strong opinion. Like, they're like, I would never eat leftovers, ever. And I'm over here like raw dogging a leftover probably 3-4 times a week. I'll admit it, sometimes I don't even heat it up. I eat it cold. But I also am strong enough to admit that it doesn't hit every single time. It has like about a 75% success rate, but...
That's nothing to be proud of, Rusty.
Woman, if you're consuming cold leftovers, then you might want to consult with a medical professional and stay out of morgues, because from what you're implying, you probably have a fetish that's just plain wrong. But even if that wasn't the implication, you're not the one eating the leftovers. The men you claim to avenue stroll yourself for choose whether or not they wish to dine with you. And leftovers are what you're offering because that's what you are. And the men you wish to share your leftovers aren't leftovers. In fact, those men are in their prime. Here's the thing about leftovers. Leftovers are a quick and easy fix and a great way to save time and money. They're easy to prepare, they don't cost a whole lot of cash, and because they're leftovers, cleanup isn't a problem because it's your mess. But if you keep reheating your leftovers over and over again for multiple men, the more inedible they become. And even the most hungry of men wouldn't even want to bother with that. Nobody wants leftovers that badly, I can assure you of that.
I feel like to puke.
I would love for you to address for us 50+ girls that real experience of lack of emotional availability, maturity, and inflexibility experienced in older men, and reinforce that the struggle is real. Shit, not only is the struggle real, the struggle has always been here. As a matter of fact, the dating experience that we're experiencing is better than it's ever been before us.
Liar, liar, liar.
And that's a hard pill to swallow. Can you imagine what the women went through before us? Because up until 50 years ago, women had no economic freedom. They had no choice but to marry. And very few of them married for love. So women 50 years old and below are the first generation of women to experience economic freedom and financial freedom, where they have a choice, whether they actually want to get married or not.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid. Now wait just a minute. And you're ugly, just like your mum.
And what good has this economic freedom brought you exactly? If your job brought you enough happiness and contentment with life, then you would be out of a job because these crusted out hags wouldn't be complaining about men on the internet. You act like money is the sole determining factor for why women get with men. There's nothing to say about emotional bonding, security, warmth, or trust. But when you really think about it, that actually makes sense. You're flexing on your bank account because you have nothing else to brag about. You're old, bitter, and incapable of respecting men, so you act like you're better because you have money when none of us really care. We never did. You're flexing over a massive price tag when you're not even worth the loose change we throw into a fountain. Because throwing coins into water is way more satisfying and well worth the money.
And ironically, we actually have better pick of the crop than before. Because as women have evolved to become financially independent, some of the men have had to evolve to offer more than just money. But I think it's going to take another 50 to 100 years for all the men to catch up. Because they have to offer us more than money now that we can make our own money and get loans and credit cards and get business loans. Men have to offer emotional intelligence now, if they want a relationship with a healthy woman. But the options are better now than they've ever been before, which doesn't say much. Now, I think a lot of the men of millennials and Gen Z are catching on, and I see a lot of them really becoming emotionally intelligent, but it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Speak for yourself, moron.
Oh my god, that is funny! I'm not gonna lie, I was going to make a joke about you being the old dog, but then I realized that would be giving dogs like Gunnery Sergeant Thunderbolt, Canine Space Marine a bad rap. Dogs are loyal, friendly, respectful, smart, and good looking. And I can't bring myself to insult innocent doggos in such a way, especially when your typical pooch has more emotional intelligence than your garden variety divorce broad that's over the age of 50. At least these dogs will comfort you when you're sad, sleep at your feet to protect you from bad guys, and love you unconditionally. And dogs don't care about money. They're just happy to have a buddy. If there's anybody here that needs training, it's you. And to be honest, when I listen to you talk smack about men who make less money than you, it really brings your basic faculties into question, because you're shitting all over men, and it really makes me think that you're not even housebroken.
So unfortunately, there are still a lot of men age 40 and above who just aren't getting it. The struggle is real, and that's why it's super important for us to decenter romantic love from our life while simultaneously being open and receptive to it. And that's a hard balance to strike. We have to create a life that we absolutely love, that we find fulfillment and purpose in, with no guarantee that we'll ever find romantic love and the partner and companion that we want. But at the same time, we have to still allow room for the possibility that it might happen. And we have to also choose our hard. Being alone can be very hard, and being in a relationship can also be very hard. Because you're imperfect and people are imperfect, and most of the time we want what we don't have. But the struggle is real, girl.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
Oh, that's where you're wrong, Dusty Buns. You could have easily had what you wanted. It's not that complicated. You choose a man in your league and you work at the relationship to find a solid balance. But you didn't want that. You wanted more. You wanted the fantasy. You wanted the fun and the adventure. And when you realized that men weren't going to provide you that, you blamed them all for your life failures and say that your life is simultaneously hard because you might not find the man that you want, but you have better options because you have more money, which makes the majority of men undesirable. You see the problem here? You're talking out of your ass and going around in circles because you know you're wrong but can't bring yourself to admit as such. You're not only incapable of keeping a man in your life, but you're also empty, miserable, and alone. But hey, at least you have a bunch of money, right? And I'm sure that'll buy you a nice room in a retirement community as you spend your aging years alone, as the men you see around you ignore you as they successfully hit on the hot nurses. Well done, lady. This episode was brought to you in part by the Bounty Board over on Patreon. For $5 a month, you get yourself a permanent producer credit on the Bounty Board, a personalized shout out, as well as exclusive access to content you won't find anywhere else, including Tales from the Lockverse, Adventures with Skeeter, as well as some other cool stuff we got in the mix, so definitely check it out. The link is in the pinned comment down below. It's a great way to help support the channel at a low cost. And of course, you can always support the channel by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, sharing it, leaving comments. There is more than one way to help out and give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for the support and everything you do, gentlemen and gents, because the way I see it, I got some of the best damn subs on the internet. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, peace out, homies.